Well, you guys already know we have so many phones coming out, but your boy has to go and talk about a phone that came out in 2017. We're going to be talking about the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus and seeing how it holds up in the later part of 2020. Now, this is what I will tell you about this device, and it's so funny I can just come up with these memories on the spot. Basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but when this phone first came out in 2017, I was just thinking to myself that if you were to pick up this phone at this moment of time at that time, you would not have to upgrade your phone probably ever, because there's just nothing in my head that, Samsung could do, or really any other phone manufacturer that could do besides software enhancements that could make this phone a better device than it already is. And I probably am wrong more so than I'm right, but I'm really not too far off, because when you look at a phone like the Galaxy S8 Plus, it actually still holds up extremely well in terms of the build quality and everything. Really, the only thing it really maybe even kind of bad in is the software, but even that is not horrible. Yeah, it's pretty bad, and I'm kind of sad it didn't get One UI 2, but still at the end of the day, it handled everything I threw at it perfectly fine. But regardless, if you want to pick up this phone right now, you can pick them up for less than $250. I'll find the cheapest one on Amazon, link it down in the description below. You can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, on the front of this device, first of all, 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display. It's a 1440p panel. Now, this is a big phone. I'm surprised it only has a 6.2-inch panel, because it seems like a bigger phone than that, considering the iPhone 12 Pro has a 6.1-inch panel. But this phone feels bigger, it is bigger, and it still feels and performs like a really good phone, like I stated. And that panel in and of itself is the one aspect where this phone probably holds up the best. If this phone had some really bad 1080p panel with a bunch of bezel around it, then obviously it wouldn't be the best look. But because this thing's panel is pretty timeless, yeah, it has a little bit of bezel on the top and bottom, but it's symmetrical and it still looks really nice. That is a huge asset of this device for sure, and it's probably one of the best things about this phone. Now, on the bottom you have a USB Type-C port, and on the back you have a glass back with wireless charging, which is awesome. And that in and of itself, like I said, this phone still feels like $1,000 phone. Really, the only improvements that we've gotten in terms of the outside are probably the frosted glass backs as well as reverse wireless charging, but this phone has a really good build quality to it too, which is really nice. You have IP certification on this phone, which is awesome, and you have the microSD card slot, which is really cool. I love microSD card slots. I don't know why phone manufacturers want to take them out. Samsung's already taken them out of their Note lineup, and apparently they might even remove their whole entire Note lineup. We really don't even know. But at the end of the day, this phone still feels and performs like a really good phone in my opinion. Now, on the top of the back of the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, you have that single camera setup, which is a very interesting camera setup, and this is one area where it really dates the phone, I think. When I was thinking to myself at that moment back in 2017, if you get this phone, you'll never have to upgrade, there weren't really a lot of phones that had dual camera setups besides the iPhone 7 Plus or something. So I really wasn't thinking about it in terms of that, which is still okay. But when you look at a phone like this, and I will be honest, the camera that it has isn't even that bad. It's a 12 megapixel sensor. You can do 4K videos on it. And one thing that I always pride Samsung at doing is just putting so many features inside of their camera. It's not even funny. Whatever features they have available at their moment, at their discretion, they just go ahead and utilize it. And that's something I really do like seeing. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. No 4K at 60. The front camera really isn't that great, if I'm being honest. It's only an 8 megapixel front facing sensor that you can only do 1440p videos on. But considering this phone came out in 2017, early 2017 at that, I will give it a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. But do keep in mind that if you were to pick up this phone now, I wouldn't say that this phone's camera quality is the best, and I wouldn't say it's the worst. But for a 2017 phone, like I stated, it's really not that bad. It totally gets the job done. Yes, if you were to go pick up a Galaxy S9 or iPhone 10 or something, you'll probably get better camera quality. But this thing, at the end of the day, the photos still look good, they still look sharp, and probably if you were to know how to edit a video or two or a photo or two from your phone itself, then you can probably still get some really nice looking photos and videos from this thing. So in terms of that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. Now, software wise, like I stated before, this is probably this phone's biggest problem. It's not getting any more software updates, which is really sad. It stopped at Android 9, which is horrible. It's already 2 versions of Android behind, and it's probably going to be 3 versions of Android behind very, very soon. So you're already kind of outdated when it comes down to it, but still Android Android 10 on this thing was pretty, or Android 9 on this thing was pretty decent. I never was a fan of One UI. It was a jump up from TouchWiz, but still it wasn't that great for Samsung experience that they had before. And bro, TouchWiz is the worst name I've ever heard in my life. I don't know how they even kept that for so many years, but One UI is much more seamless, and One UI 3 is looking to be better still, but it's still not that great if I'm being honest. I don't know what their deal is. I don't know why they want to still stick with this. It's like they don't want to be proven wrong, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and the software experience is not getting any more software updates, but it'll get the job done for sure. Now, performance-wise, which is this phone's probably best asset, probably besides the screen, this thing has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 chipset and octa-core CPU with 4 gigs of RAM on that base model and 6 gigs of RAM on the top tier model. Now, I want to preface this whole entire performance segment by saying this: if a phone manufacturer came out in this day and age and released a phone with this type of performance, it probably would not be that great of a device, especially for the price tag that this phone was selling for at that time. Obviously, it wouldn't be that great. It would be horrible. I would not like it, and I would probably be offended more so than anything else. But the fact that this thing came out in 2017, it had the best chipset or one of the best chipsets of that year, then it makes sense that it still performs pretty well. Like, it's a 3-year-old phone, probably it's almost a 4-year-old phone in a couple of months, and it doesn't feel like a 4-year-old phone. It feels like maybe like a year or 2 old phone in some ways because of the build quality. And the performance wise, yeah, it's probably not the best thing. Like, it does stutter a lot, the animations are very jittery, and it does glitch up a lot, but for the most part, once you have a game already uploaded, on your screen, if you have an app that you're using, such as Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or whatever, it'll still work. Like, it still works. I don't know what people think, like, if these phones just stop working after a year. Like, these phones still work completely, and yeah, it just does everything slower. That's probably the best way to put it. Now, like I said, I think the biggest difference as well that we've seen in this day and age, especially within the last year, is probably the increase in refresh rate. So when you look at the screen itself, we now have like 90 Hz refresh rates, 120 Hz refresh rates. The Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus still has that standard 60 Hz, which is totally okay, but do keep in mind that that is one thing you are probably going to be missing when you go from something like a Galaxy S20 to an S8 Plus. So yeah, the performance is still pretty decent, but it's not a smooth phone at all by any means. It's not that fast either, but for a 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old device, I actually think it's pretty decent, and I think it's kind of funny that I'm even saying that, because this device at that time was a pretty good performing phone, but nowadays we look at it and we're like, oh my god, this phone is so bad and this phone is this. But I'll be honest, like I said, for a 4-year-old phone, I think it probably gets the job done, and if somebody had to use it, I could probably see some people using it still. It just wouldn't be that smooth of an experience, and I would highly recommend anybody who is going to plan on using that phone, definitely get a custom launcher on it. You can't really custom ROM any of these things, but you can download a custom launcher, so I would highly recommend you guys doing that. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. Now, ending it off with the battery life, this thing had a 3500 mAh battery inside of it, and I think that's a really good sized battery for sure. Like I said before, it gets the job done. It's definitely not the best, and this phone's battery has degraded a lot, even for mine. I don't even use these phones. I don't even know how these batteries degrade like this because I never use them. But this thing does have a, weirder battery life, especially with Android Pie. I don't think Android Pie was that great for battery life too, so that's another pretty big thing to keep in mind. But the battery size is actually pretty decent. It just so happens that the wireless charging, it just so happens that because it is older now, it has degraded over time, especially for my model. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. And to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and pick up a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus in the later part of 2020? Well, what I can tell you is I probably would not go and pick up this phone in 2020, honestly. Like, I hate to say it, but this phone just doesn't have that much capability compared to today's standards. But I will tell you, if you are already using the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, then I think that's actually a pretty decent setup for sure. Like, I would not actively go out to pick up this phone up just because of the software experience, just because it's so behind, but you're still getting features for the most part. You're still getting a really good build quality. I mean, this phone still feels more premium than a lot of phones that have came out this year. I think it's up there with like a OnePlus 7T Pro. I mean, that's kind of last year, but it's up there. It's better feeling than the Pixel 5, than it's about there with like the iPhone 12. I think this phone feels more premium than that phone as well. It has a better looking display, and I can't really find any reason to hate on this phone on the hardware setup. It just so happens that the software just isn't there. The camera is also a little bit outdated. It's only a single camera setup, and the front camera is also a little bit outdated too, but you're still getting things like that micro SD card slot. You're still getting that headphone jack, USB Type-C, Samsung DeX experience. This was, I think, the first phone to bring that capability, and it's just like a desktop experience for your phone. And that's a really awesome thing. You connect it to a monitor and you can automatically just use your phone as, a monitor desktop experience. I mean, it's really crazy. If you have never used it, I would recommend looking into it. But that in and of itself is another really awesome thing about this phone. You're getting, a kind of more RAM, not a lot, but okay standards. You're getting a pretty good sized battery. You're getting great hardware. It just so happens that the software is super outdated and the hardware just isn't that great either. But like I said before, if you've currently made this phone last this long, if you've been able to use the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus and it's working fine for you, then by all means keep it. I probably would recommend even keeping it until the Galaxy S21 comes out, and then I would recommend updating then. But in terms of everything, guys, that really pretty much covers that up. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly, everything else. I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.